the whole idea behind doing this workshop, this specific workshop, is obviously all of us, I don't care who you are, where you are, we've experienced a real disruption in our normal lives. And that disruption has come in the form of COVID-19 and quarantine, and really the halt that's brought to the creative industries. But then also beyond that, we've had the racial unrest that we've had, the kind of social stress that has been really existing in our society and in our communities. And I think all of that has just made for one massive disruption of life as we would normally know it. And so I think we really have an option to look at it two ways. One is, we're disrupted and we have to just press pause on working and educating and getting better, or we look at that disruption as an opportunity to grow. And so I know a lot of you, some of you guys I know very personally, and you've expressed to me that, work has changed and you haven't had the opportunity to work, or maybe you've lost work altogether. And so even though that this is difficult, because I've walked through the same thing as a commercial photographer myself, I also think that this has created the opportunity for us to take this time to grow and to come out better. So with all that said, the idea with this is, so many of you guys do incredible work, and what we'd love to see happen with that incredible work is in this moment for you to grow in your ability to market that work, in your ability to brand that work and take it to people that could possibly look to hire you and really to compensate you for the great work that you do. True Chicago, over the last month and a half or so, we have just formed a budding partnership with Wonderful Machine. Myself as an artist, I'm represented by Wonderful Machine. They represent, almost a little under 600 artists all over the world. And so it's just been really cool to partner with them during this time. And what that has looked like is us taking the time to really learn a little bit from them and invite them into this space as professionals to educate us. So specifically, one of the things that they do is help artists get work and to help put artists in the forefront. And so in this moment, they've just agreed as the experts to share some of that knowledge and share a little bit of who they are and what they do as it pertains to branding and marketing. So I just think that this is an important thing, because it's great to have a gift and a skill as an artist and as a creative, but if you don't have that bridge of marketing and branding to be able to get your work from where it is into the minds and in front of the eyes of some of the people that would be interested in hiring you and bringing you on, then it doesn't matter. But if you can leverage some of these branding abilities, then all of a sudden it opens up what you might be able to do as an artist and as a creative. So all of that said, Wonderful Machine and Brian and Lindsay, who are going to be presenting today, a lot of what they do will focus on, for today's sake, we'll focus on photography. I know some of you guys are not photographers. However, I think this is actually one of the best ways to present it, because what they're going to present will apply to artists on a macro level. So as you hear them talking about photography and you're thinking, well, I'm a designer, or I'm a painter, or I'm a whatever you are, I still think that there's going to be some powerful things that you can take from it. So appreciate you guys' patience and listening to me. I want to present Brian and Lindsay from Wonderful Machine. Mute claps. Great to see you guys.
What's up, David? Thank you so much for having us, man.
Yeah. So maybe I would maybe ask you guys to just introduce yourself to the community here and allow them to hear a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Mm-hmm. Lindsay?
Sure. My name is Lindsay Thompson. I am from Reading, Pennsylvania originally, but I came to Philadelphia to study photography. And then from there, I think it was building my own brand that I got really into it. And it sort of, my interest transferred from design to, or from photography to design. So since then, I've been working on that and getting some freelance clients, eventually started working with Wonderful Machine and have been able to do everything from sort of in-house projects to working with photographers. So it's been a really good journey, and I'm very excited to be here with you all.
So Lindsay's one of our designers on staff and is extremely talented and works with photographers pretty much every day in helping to build out their branding materials. I'm Brian. I'm a project manager and producer at Wonderful Machines. I'm working with photographers and clients all the time to help connect them, connect the dots, put together shoots, put together estimates, as well as overseeing all of the marketing projects and photo editing that we do with photographers. So we started talking with David about this project a couple weeks ago now, and how we could put together a workshop over Zoom now, but how ideally it would be in person, how we can just like have these conversations in person and pass around tangible materials and talk about logos, but this is what we got right now. So we're looking forward to making this happen. We're going to be looking at a couple different photographers' work today, but before that, we wanted to show you guys kind of a presentation we put together on marketing branding materials and discussing what those are. And some of this may be news to people, some of it may be old hat, but I think there's something to learn, and we can all share some experiences using some of these materials.
So before you guys jump in, there's a couple of things a few quick ground rules that I forgot to throw out there. One, would appreciate if everybody stays on mute until we get to a Q&A period that we'll do at the end. With that said, please keep in mind your questions, because both Brian and Lindsay are looking to answer some of your questions after they go through their presentation. So this is going to be a community time. Want to make sure that you guys get your questions answered as best as possible. Looks like we have a manageable amount on here. I think that was one of our goals. Is I know some of you guys have come to True Chicago events in the past, and usually, we'll have anywhere from 50 to 100 to 150 people that are involved with the events. This one particularly, we were wanting to see if we could make it a little bit more conversational and a little bit more just connected. So part of it is I want you guys to think about, what questions do you have? How do you want to get better, and how do you want to grow in this area? So go for it.
Yeah, one of the greatest things about marketing in arts is that everyone's different. Every photographer is different. Every artist is different. Everyone has different goals for their business and for themselves, and for who their clients are and the type of work they want to do. So yes, the materials and items we're going to be presenting here, like I think broadly can, like David said, with designers or illustrators that may be on this call, that can be a help. But none of this stuff is gospel. It's all a work in progress. And looking forward to having a conversation about it.
Yeah. Real quick, it actually says that post disabled attendee screen sharing. So I think it's Gina now. Could you?
Yeah, let me make you, there you go. You should be a co-host now. There we go.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
So as Lindsay's pulling that up, we wanted to start off with defining a couple of things, like what is a brand? So your brand is technically kind of an abstract idea. It's something that encompasses everything that you want to project about yourself, about the work that you do, about who you are. So this is going to include your photographic style, your personality, and technically your one sentence elevator pitch of my name is blank, I'm from this location. I shoot this type of photography. You know, you meet someone on the subway. Hey, what do you do? That's what you tell them. That's your brand. When we're talking about branding, we're referring to things like your logo, your color palette, other design elements that tie all of your materials together.
You mean to
These
say
are the things.
marketing?
Nope.
Oh, what you said.
For branding.
Oh, okay. I thought you
Yeah.
switched to marketing. Sorry, my bad.
No,
Continue.
you're good. So this is your branding. This is your logo, your color palette, these design elements. These are the items that are going to tie all of your marketing materials together. These are the things that are going to help clients identify you as a unique photographer and a unique business. As everyone knows, you know, a city like Chicago or Los Angeles or New York, there's 30 photographers on every city block. So how are you going to separate yourself? And especially to, like, you know, the layperson or a client, like, every photographer is the same. You know, even though we as photographers or we as artists know that there are subtle differences and importances. You know, I'm a portrait photographer, I'm a wedding photographer, I'm a food photographer, I'm an adventure sports photographer. To the layperson, photography is just you take pictures with a camera. So there's ways to separate yourself out. Linz, can you pull up that deck?
Absolutely. All right. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So to get started, again, like as Brian said, we put this presentation together. It'll sort of go through the different elements and what makes branding. So what goes into your branding, and then how do you implement it into all of your marketing materials? So to get started, the first thing is your logo. Logo is sort of like the main identifier of your business. It is the one thing that people should be able to see and then associate with the photos that you take. So the main things is that you want it to be, you know, memorable, noticeable, stylized, and, you know, well curated, because really it should be there on every part of your other marketing material. So it's a good way to jump into everything else that you could design for your business.
Yeah. Ideally, a logo should, you know, invoke an emotion, I guess, when you're looking at it. Like, we're looking at these word marks and logos up on the page here, and then, you know, they should kind of give us all a certain feeling of what type of work these businesses do.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a difference between a word mark and a logo, and those uses should be different as well. Lindsay, do you want to expand upon that at all?
Yeah, so a word mark is essentially when you take the business name and in a stylized way, you display that as your main logo. This could be something really simple like Doza, and as Edsel, it's basically just a font, only by eliminating certain, you know, curves and lines, they make it a little bit more stylized. That's a really simple way that you can go into it. Whereas if you have someone like Clay Cook, that's a little more like edgy and fast paced. And then you have someone like Lauren B. Allen, who, you know, it's very curvy, it's very poppy and quirky. And all of these, you can kind of see how they play into the different type of photography that they take. So Doza is something that's a little bit more refined and sophisticated and like chic. Lauren B. Allen does food photography, and it's very like bright and poppy. You kind of see how they reflect one another.
It's
and, yeah.
I like to look at logos like a good example of, you know, a good case logos are musicians and bands. You know, you kind of tell right from looking at the front of like an album packaging, like what type of music they make just by looking at that logo sometimes. Historically, I think that they've always done a great job.
Yeah. And one nice thing about a logo too is how it can change. You know, once you have one, you don't necessarily have to keep that for your entire business's career. You could change it. One thing Brian actually mentioned to me earlier is how different companies, you know, they'll change their logo in order to keep it contemporary.
Yeah, like Coca-Cola, for instance, or Virgin, for instance, like they have the same logo for most of their business's lifespan. but they add different graphic elements around it and display it in different ways to keep it contemporary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then basically, so like I said, logo is sort of like the first thing that leads into the rest of your graphic identity. So to get further into graphic identity,
Mhm.
there we go.
Mhm.
Graphic identity is taking your logo along with all of the other assets that goes into your business. This can be the color palette and the typeface that you use throughout all of your branding materials. It's sort of bringing everything together in one package so that everything that you present to customers and clients is sophisticated, on brand. There's a theme to it, and like the whole thing represents your photography.
Mhm. With your graphic identity too, you should, I think, look at yourself, look at your personality, your attitude, your energy. Like that's part of your brand, and how you can convey that in shapes and in colors, I think is great. Most photographers that are on here would know that, about cool tones and warm tones and neutral colors, and how those can evoke certain emotions and feelings within people as you're showing them those colors. We think about that all the time when we're planning work and we're planning lighting. So you should be definitely think about that when you're planning what your graphic identity is as well.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Yeah, and then once you have sort of everything down, this is when you're going to be implementing it. And you can see on this last photo here what you use all of those different assets to, everything from a website to printing materials to like signage and even social media. So to get more into that, one of the first things you can think about is your website.
Mm-hmm. So now we're going into, what these marketing materials are. So now you have your branding, and now how are you going to use that? These are the ways that you're going to be using what you've created to show the world your work.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the easiest ways to show your work is through a website. It's sort of a blank slate where you can curate all of your photos and arrange the menu and the logo in a way that makes you memorable. And then you can give that off to somebody across the world or across the country. So it's a really easy way to connect with somebody and show clients, your dream clients, people from afar, what you're capable of.
Yeah, you want to show them definitely your specialized skills and what you're good at, and have those galleries be titled with good descriptions of your work, so clients know right away when they're looking at it what they're going to see in there. The website is the first impression on a client. So if you're reaching out to a brand new client that you never talked to, hey, North Face, I want to shoot for you. Here's my website. They're going to click on it. Those first impressions, are going to dictate whether they stay on your website for a minute or, an hour, or leave right away. So you want to be recognizable, and you want to be creative, and you want to have gallery titles that, categorize and describe the work that you are awesome at and what sets you apart from everyone else. In that too, some of the watchouts are a generic web template. Like, it's very easy to make a generic website that looks like another photographer's website, and take care to not do that. Take care to make yours stand out, and ideally complement your work.
One other thing is sort of the contact page and biography. You definitely want people to be able to reach out to you. So along with a message form, one thing that I would recommend is to also give your actual email and phone number on there. That way, I feel like sometimes the message board or message form can deter people, but they're always happy to write an email separately.
Yeah.
I think,
and to add on to that, Lindsay, too, make sure that that email address and that phone number are hyperlinked as well on both the web and on mobile as well, so people can just right away click and get in contact with you.
Absolutely. And then with your about page, definitely recommend this. It's good for clients to see, the photos that you're able to do, but also see who they're working with. So to show a self-portrait and then a quick blurb, I always really enjoy the ones that are a little bit more creative, instead of if mine were to say Lindsay Thompson is a designer. She graduated from Tyler School of Art. It would say like, hey, how's it going? Like, I'm Lindsay. I always like when they're a little bit more personable and a little more creative. I think that sort of gives a little bit more ease into how the client's going to be viewing you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on that about page too is a great place to put a list of your clients. If there's not a ton of clients, if you only have 3 clients, great, then write selected clients and put those clients up there. No one knows that you only have 3 clients. You know, it could be more. Those are your selected clients that you're posting for people to see.
Yeah, it's a good call. All right, so moving on to the website, once you have this all developed, it's beautiful, it's curated. How do you get it out there? So one of the ways you can is by emailers. It's really easy. It's one of the cheaper ways of marketing. You do some research and look up all the clients, your dream clients, who you want to be working for. And you can just, easily design one of these and send it out. There are multiple emailer templates that you can get into, like MailChimp or Agency Access, that make it really easy, and it is an affordable method to reaching out to people as well.
So on this page here is a couple that Lindsay herself built, which are awesome. She's been slammed this week actually building some, which is great to see. But yeah, like Lindsay said, these are low price and easy to do yourself and easy to get out there. And it should start with leading off with your branding, with your logo. Like when someone opens this up on their phone and they've never seen your name before and they don't know who this email is from, that you want to capture that right away. Like, just get that that name into people's heads. Location is also something that is great to see, especially now during COVID, where people are, not able to hire photographers to get on airplanes. They want to know, like, I'm a portrait photographer in Chicago. And the copy on these should be quick and to the point. Describe what you're after, ask a question or two. Can I show you more work? Can we get on a phone call? If the emailer is not just a general overview of your work, if it's project based, if this is like, I just shot this, new project for XYZ local coffee shop, here's 5 photos from it. Describe that, describe the shoot, describe what you put into it and what you did on it. If you helped art direct it, if you helped, style it, if you helped, with the lighting, describe that as well. The viewer is going to want to see that. And you want to make sure that these emailers click through to your website too.
One thing I'll just add to that, I feel like this is one of those moments where a lot of the artists, especially the ones that are on here, that are out here trying to do independent work, I think you need to maybe see yourself a little bit differently, where it may have felt like at one point you couldn't email a quote unquote dream client with something like this. I think a lot of the playing fields have been changed and are way more wide open, where you could, email the head of whatever department that you thought maybe you couldn't reach before. And one of these pieces that you could design or have help designing would really go a long way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like we were talking about earlier with the arts, it's all about creativity and standing out and, not being annoying about it, but you can do whatever you want. Just don't be annoying about it.
Yeah, what David was saying, like, there really are no playing fields and nothing is going to hurt you. Like, there's nothing to lose by sending an email. But what you have to gain if you send them something and you have beautiful photos there and like a really cool intro, like, there's that chance that you might just get their attention. And the overall goal is to get the viewer to click into your website. And so best case scenario, they're going to do that, see what you have on your website and be like, wow, like, I'm impressed. I'm going to reach out to this guy. So definitely don't be intimidated by emails.
And I'll just say to that, I think you can take the pressure off of yourself, especially if you're thinking of, if you make an email list of people that you want to work with or be in contact with, to take the pressure off. The first email doesn't have to change their life. It just, I think the overall goal is to get on their radar.
Mm-hmm.
and to just put yourself out there. So it may be, a few emails in that they may, I can think of so many folks that it took me 4 or 5, even 7 emails. And then all of a sudden they responded to me, and I've been working with them ever since. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep. And yeah, that's one of the things that I'm glad you brought up, Dave, that we want to touch on too, is that repeat touching, repeat outreach.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely recommend we do these emails, that a photographer does these emails every 2 months or at least quarterly, talk about things that are relevant, talk about a new shoot. As those emails are coming to the recipient's inbox, they're going to recognize your name and they're going to see your work. And even if they're not clicking through every time, like it's that multiple touches, like David was saying, like, 7 or 8 times. And then when the project is right, they're going to reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
There was a great interview I read with Deb Schwartz from DS Reps, like this is like 10 years ago or so. And at the time, her and her photographers were just killing it. Like every gigantic ad campaign from Adidas and Reebok and Nike and Apple and yada, yada, they were just doing it all. And the interview asked, what do you attribute your success to? And her answer was just luck. It's just luck. It's being in the right place at the right time and knowing the right people and constantly, keeping in contact with these people. In marketing, there's no magic bullet that's going to make this happen. It's just letting people know over and over again you're there. It's rare you're going to be able to send an email to someone and they're going to write you back right away and say, oh my God, thank you so much for the email. I was looking for a photographer. Let me hire you right now.
Yeah.
It's,
couldn't
they're
find
going to look, yeah, they're going to look at your work and they're going to love it. And, if it's not right for them, for the projects they're working on right then, they're going to save your name and they're going to save your location and they're going to pass it on to their coworkers when the time is right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know that, it can be frustrating and disheartening to hear, but it's definitely a trial and error game, and doing it repetitively. Marketing isn't something that you're going to do for 6 months and then just chill for 6 months. You're going to do this all the time as you're running your creative business. You're either going to do it yourself or you're going to hire someone to do it.
Speaking of someone where I was always kind of nervous putting myself and my work out there. At one point I sort of took a step back and was like, let me look at this as if I'm doing this for somebody else. I'm doing this for a job. It's not promoting me because I don't personally like the limelight all that much, but like, let me act as if this is like somebody else's work that I need to get them jobs. And you are doing it for yourself, but it sort of like helps you, at least in my opinion, it like helped me sort of detach from the self-consciousness part of it and was just able to let me go like full force and putting myself out there. It's kind of like faking it till you make it in a way.
Mm-hmm. Most artists are, shy or uncomfortable talking about themselves, uncomfortable being, gregarious in their promotions. So yeah, it's always good to have someone else. Like, do you have a writer friend that you could, write down the bullet points of your bio and hand it to a writer friend and have them flesh it out into like a bio that makes sense for you? The same with designing one of these emails or, anything for your career. Like, what friends do you have that you could work with for trade or for a case of beer or just, a handshake deal to help promote each other?
Yeah. All right. So once you have your emailer out, it's also good as a point of connection, obviously, with social media. It's free. It's changed the game completely. You have people who have gained so much success just by being diligent and talking about being persistent over marketing. This is definitely one that you have to be posting to, often enough to keep people engaged. But I would definitely recommend you take advantage of this kind of platform. And also, make sure it looks good. You don't have as much control over the design of a social media. Like, they chose the structure of it. They chose how everything is laid out, but you get to choose what the photos look like when they go into these platforms. So there is some opportunity for you to make it yours.
Yeah. Like, for instance, on Instagram, you only have one line to do like a link to your website there. So, that's why people, whatever link in bio, like people change it often to like what they want to point at. Here's this new project I did, here's this gallery, but you only have that one option. I don't know if anyone uses Facebook anymore, but you know, you have very few options for how to post your images on there as well. One thing we recommend too is for your Instagram page, your profile page, is a picture of your face up there instead of your logo. Show who you are. You know, it's just that extra opportunity to give an idea to your, you know, clients of what type of person you are. Write your location on there as well. I mean, I'm sure all of us on here have at one point gone on someone's profile page and then clicked on like the tagged photos just to try to find out what a person looks like. So it's great to just have that photo right up there. Like, here's what that person looks like.
Yeah. And also with that, I feel like with social media, this is an opportunity to show your work, but again, also show like how you work. So I feel like incorporating, you can see in Tropico Photo in one of their highlight stories, they have behind the scenes. I think that's a good opportunity to show clients like what your process is and how you work. That way they'll be able to sort of get an idea of like, oh, this person does this. I love that. Like, I would think it would be great to have them on set and work with them.
Yeah.
As far as the highlight stories too, like that's another opportunity to put more curated, either like icons or like designated photos there that make it organized and curated.
Yeah. One thing, and King just brought this up too about not making your page private. There's differing views on that, you know, according to everyone and what the new, you know, rules are as far as what Instagram can do with your images once you post them. But if your page is not private, make sure you're tagging people within your images. If you put up a portfolio piece of some, you know, photo you just shot, tag everyone, tag your assistants, tag the, you know, the client, tag the art director. You know, give recognition to those people, make it a community, thank them. And then, you know, the hopes and the thought is that they will do the same for you and help promote you and your work.
Yeah. So this is sort of wrapping up everything that you can do as far as digital promotion. So to move on, making more of an in-person impression, print promos are another way that you can have leave behinds or something that you can mail to clients. This is an opportunity to show your work, not just as like, these are my photos, but this is a tangible thing that I'm capable of creating.
Yeah, then print promos come in all shapes and sizes. I mean, we've all seen postcards. We've all seen like, you know, brochures like at the, you know, the gas station advertising the you know, amusement park down the block or whatever. But, you know, think about the right kind of print promo for your business. And, you know, what is going to look good and what is going to elevate your brand. And then, you know, also what is affordable, what is, you know, you can actually do. And these are great to, you know, leave behind with a client. You know, if you're mailing it to a client list a couple times a year to promote yourself, that's awesome. If not, and if you're simply have these on hand for when you go and meet, you know, a local creative director or a local producer that you'd like to work with, that you can give them a couple of your, you know, promo cards or books just so they can have on hand. You know, anyone on this call who's been in an ad agency has seen that every cubicle is lined with these on the walls from, you know, mailings that these people have got, and they work as a, you know, these creative directors and art directors put them up as like decoration in their cubicles in their offices, but it's just more promotion for you as other creatives are walking by their desk and admiring your work. Yeah.
Yeah. This is another good opportunity or like reason to collaborate with people as well. You can see there's a lot of design elements in this book that's in front and center. In the back, you can also see a little illustration. Yeah, just use your community and get to know the other people who are doing creative things and see how you can help each other out with. I think that's a really great way to like give you that professional look in a way that's also more meaningful. I feel like if you make connections, it's going to help you in the now and down the road.
And those, you know, everyone has a designer friend and illustrator friend that may need photographs of their portfolio that they can then put online. So yeah, do those trades with them. You know, like say, hey, yeah, I would love to spend 5 hours photographing your portfolio and retouching these photos and resizing them for you. If you spend 5 hours working on, you know, the layout and design of a couple of pieces for me.
So then moving on, something that's a little bit more of like a staple, or not a staple, but like a down the road kind of investment are actual portfolio books. These are something that a lot of times you'll sit with a client and be able to flip through.
Yeah, this was, you know, like Lindsay brought up, this was like the old standard, definitely before websites were prevalent, and you know, even after that, of like, you're going into a meeting, or what are you going to show? You're going to show this book. You know, you're not going to bring in your laptop and show work on your site that they've already seen, which is why they're calling you into a meeting. Like, the book is there to flip through, and you can tell stories about each page and the shoot, and, you know, anecdotal things that'll make the person laugh. And it's, you know, something to have in hand as you're having these conversations with the client. You know, we see less and less of these days, especially being called into meetings. You know, 10 years ago, this is what they wanted. Like, the creator would call you and say, can you send me your book? We'd love to check it out and show a client. And then you'd literally FedEx them your book and hope to get it back one day. And when it did come back, sometimes it had pizza on it, or some of the pages were removed, which was fine, because we can assume they love it. That's why they removed it and they put it on their wall. But you know, that was just the nature of it. Now a lot of more things have gone digital. But so, because they're like kind of a relic now and a conversation piece, you know, it helps. I find they help kind of elevate your brand and bring it into like a more fine art nature. You know, us as photographers, a lot of times our stuff just exists intangibly in the ether. You know, it's on a website, it's on a magazine's webpage, like it's on Instagram. You know, so it's so awesome to be able to see it on the printed page and be able to hold it and, you know, smell smell those prints. But ultimately, it's a very large investment, and not everyone these days expect photographer to have those.
Yeah.
David, do you still have a portfolio, a printed portfolio?
I sure do. And it's because I made it when you were still supposed to. So
Yeah.
it
And if
cost
you
me
wanted
way
to
more than
update
it
it,
should.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if you wanted to update it now, it would probably cost you, you know, $600 to $800.
Yep.
You know, to update all those prints and spend the time on it. And it's like, so yeah, if the time is right to do that, you know, if Nike called you and said, David, send us your book, you'd say, yes, I will spend the $600 to $800 and update this book. But
Yeah.
you know, for the most part, it might not be worth it.
Right.
We've had a lot of conversations too of like, well, what makes this printed portfolio? You know, like, is it, you know, there's simple blurb books that are like $15 to $30. There's like, you know, we've seen luxurious leather bound books with fine art prints on, you know, some kind of unpronounceable Italian printed paper. And so, you know, and that all speaks to the photographer's aesthetic and to their brand and, you know, what their goals are and how much money they have. But there's other ways to do this too. And I think we can all be creative and figure out, like, well, if you're showing a client your work, like, you know, is this a zine you make at Kinko's with it, like you know, a couple inkjet prints that you then slap on later? Is this like, you know, you can get creative and put together something that's meaningful to show a client your work that speaks to your brand on your own.
Yeah. So in general, this is, I mean, you can kind of see at the top all of the different steps. These are just like all of the marketing materials that you can have. Before we get into, or as we get into the marketing material sort of like examples, I think we have a few expert advice articles on Wonderful Machine. I'm gonna ask Brian if he can put that in the group chat, but if you click into there, it covers everything from these branding materials, but it also gets into like some licensing and like other just things that I think it's hard to think about when you're thinking about like the overall business. But I think they're really good resources to like hear a little bit more detail about everything that we're talking about today. And also we have some like links in there that you can follow through as well.
So just to, were you guys going to jump into the website examples next?
Yes.
Okay, so before we do that, I just I want to make a couple comments, and then this is a great time to get your questions together if you have them, because as soon as we're done with this, we're gonna go through any questions that you guys might have. I just know for me, sometimes as an artist and as a creative over the years, this has been an area that has really, how do I say, stressed me out, because it can just be a lot. And it could be a lot to try and navigate, and you could be out there making great work, but it just feels like, I don't know what to put out there. I don't know how to put this together, blah, blah, blah. There's somebody that I see on here, and I hope you don't mind me using this as an example. I think it's, let's see, Stephen Tucker. I just saw you like this, and that's how I feel when I approach this stuff sometimes. Because I feel like, oh my gosh. And I know that you weren't necessarily feeling like that, but when I saw that, I was like, that is the spirit of my feeling towards all of this stuff. And I think one of the things that Brian pointed out that I want us all to keep in mind as we're going through this is this idea of like almost piecing together your own marketing team, like in the areas where you don't maybe excel. Maybe you're not someone who's going to sit down and Photoshop or, sketch out a logo. I guarantee that there's someone in your direct reach and in your Rolodex, so to speak, that can. And I think you just need to think of it differently. If you don't have the money to pay for that, how can you add value to what that person is doing? Because you do, anyone who is a photographer, artist, painter, whatever you are, you're on here because you do have some value to give. And so I think you really need to use that as like, that is in some way your ticket to building this team. And so I know for me, that's what I've had to do for a while. There's certain folks, there's certain graphic designers, there's certain, web developers or whatever, where we've exchanged services. And I've been able to make forward progress on my brand because of that. So all that to say, I think that just everything that you guys just presented was really, really great. And I think the last little point that I'll make is on the social media piece, because I know this is everybody's kind of first thing these days that we have access to add to and to curate. The first couple of times I had some like key folks start following me, some, folks from ad agencies and folks from, whether it was larger brands, whether it was somebody from Adidas or whatever, start following me, man, I started just tweaking about what I was going to post next. I was like, well, shoot, I was going to post this picture of my little daughter next. And now somebody from Adidas is checking it out. And now I would just say this, because I know that for most people who are working in any sort of visual fashion, this can be an area of anxiety. Don't be shaped by the expectations of these other folks on social. Don't allow those people that you are thinking are watching you to be the ones who are doing the curation. You curate. You tell the story of who you are. You tell the story of what your work is like. Like they were saying, make sure you include the other people who have contributed to your work. That's a beautiful thing, because then they engage. So I would just say that I would just really, really encourage you guys to maybe get outside, especially during this time, get outside of that box of, feeling the pressure of everyone is watching you and shoot, what am I going to post that's going to get me a job? I've had people hire me just because they thought that, man, I just enjoyed your feed. And that was after I stopped worrying about what everybody was thinking. So that's just my 2 cents in that area.
Yeah, and to build off what you're saying, David, those are awesome points. But you know, that guy at Adidas who's following you, he's a human being too.
The person.
Yeah, and he wants to see, I mean, he's not specifically wants to see a picture of your daughter, but like that's fine to show that. That is part of what makes you a person. It's, I don't know, I'm going back to this music analogy too, but like, say you're following a band on social media and all they showed is pictures of them on stage. Like, boring. Oh, I want to see like the behind the scenes. Like, I want to see like you guys making the album. I want to see you guys hanging out, just drinking a beer. I want to see your family.
It's huge because also, just like you said, that's a human being. What's happened right now in our society with specifically with quarantine, how, you could jump onto a call, and I found myself talking to, whether it was, reps or art buyers or folks from, we just did a project with FCB, with Draft FCB. And, it was always so terrifying for me to go show my book at FCB because they're on like the 80 bajillionth floor at the Hancock building. And you go up into this tower in the sky and you have your little book and you're like, I hope they like me. Like, just this feeling of like, oh shoot, I don't measure up to this. And it's crazy because when we got on the call to do these different projects, they were like sitting at their dining room because I forgot they had a dining room too, just like me, I forgot that these are just people and I need to just do the great work that I already know that I could do. And so I would just say that for all of you, the playing field has changed, y'all. Like, you can show your work to whoever, whenever, because chances are they're sitting on the couch just like you. So
straight up, Lindsay and I were on a client Zoom last month, and the client had to leave the call to go help his son in the bathroom. That happens. But to David's point too about being nervous going into a meeting, if you are invited to a meeting, they already like your work. They already like your work. Everyone is so busy these days that they're not just coming in, they're not inviting you by just to hang out and check out your work for the first time. They already like your work and they want to meet you as a person and see who you are as a person. And shake your hand and look at your eyes, probably not shake your hand today, but so if you're invited to that 80th floor of the Hancock building, like, that's awesome. That's great. Like, the ball is in your court to kill it and to crush that meeting.
So we selected a few photographers here, a few artists here that
David, real quick, sorry, before we do that, could we just run through some of these like kind of best in use case studies we got?
Sorry, I thought this was the part where you were. My bad.
Oh, it's all good. I do want to make sure we have enough time. Twizzy, I know you're on a time crunch. Do we have time to run through all this, or do you want to jump into?
So I actually think maybe we do jump into.
Go ahead, you guys will.
Yeah. So Twizzy specifically, I know he's actually literally on his way to a shoot. So
awesome.
Cool. Why don't we just jump into some of these featured photographers that we're going to look at, and then anybody who wants to check out some of those examples at the end, we could do that as well.
Absolutely. All right. So Twizzy, I'm gonna pull your website up. All right. And if everyone can see this, all right?
Yep.
Awesome.
Twizzy, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. It's a little loud where I am.
What are you off to shoot, man?
I'm shooting an artist for, he needs some cover photos for his album and just some, some content to put up.
Nice.
That's great. Awesome.
So I'll just say Twizzy specifically, he's somebody that we met. He emailed us just completely off cold and was looking for an internship when he was 19. And, he came and worked at the studio, extremely talented artist in every way, illustrator, art directs, all of those things. And now he's only 20. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. So Twizzy, one of the things right away is that like we really like your work. You're in there with your subject matter. It doesn't look like you're, you know, there's no like disconnect at all. You're one of them, and you know they'll use the air quotes like youth culture, like you're there, you're part of it. I think it's great, and you know the little things like the banister in that center photo there being like, you know, right up front and center of the frame, like kind of, you know, half blocking the subject, like that stuff's cool. You know, having the trees in the frame, blocking the guy who's sitting on the bench, like I think that stuff's really unique and interesting to see.
Thank
I'm just
you.
going to be flipping through as we talk about his work.
Yeah. And I think some of this too, when we're looking at your site, like maybe some, you know, like we said, we want this to be a discussion, but we may have some like recommendations of things you could do to your site as well, outside of this, like,
Right, yeah.
would it, Twizzy, have you thought about like putting titles on any of these photos, or saying who these, you know, who these clients are in this fashion section, or who the musicians are in the other section?
Yeah, I have actually thought about putting just the brands and the people that I work with, not necessarily titles, because I'm really, really bad at coming up with titles. I just like my work to be my work, you know, without having to tell the viewer or whoever is looking at it what it should be or what it is. So I just,
Right.
you know, I kind of stay away from titles usually.
Yeah.
The thing I've seen
Yeah.
people do is they'll just include the person's name. I think
Mhm.
that's a simple way to give it some sort of like context, but
Cool.
it doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily like need any extra thinking from you, but it like allows you to give that
Right,
extra
yeah.
element.
Right.
Yeah. And that could help too, like if, you know, obviously if it's like a recognizable person or a recognizable brand, you definitely want to put that in there to help your, you know, your search engine optimization as people are like, you know, Googling your name, or the client's name. But even, yeah, like, you know, this is Kim in Thompson Square Park, you know,
Mhm.
here's Tony, you know, like that stuff's cool. And especially as you're talking to clients too, then they can reference a photo by name instead of like, oh, you know, the one with the red building. It's here, the photo of Tony you have.
Right, right.
Yeah. A few things that I noticed about your overall brand and website. I really love how you've arranged all the photos. I feel like this is more unique than what you see on other websites. And I think it almost pays tribute to how you would view photos in print. Everything is like very well structured and curated.
Mm-hmm.
I also really like the simplicity of your website and overall like your logo in general. I think, you know, since we're talking about all of these different brand materials along with your actual website, one thing that I think having just like a regular black and white super simple logo allows you to do is in these brand materials really like play with colors and play with, you know, structures and shapes that reflect your photography. Like your photos are so lively and young and bright and colorful, and I feel like you could use bright colors and like, because your overall website is really simple, like you don't necessarily have to stick with any palette. You can experiment with that and just see like what works for each thing you make, each promo you do, or each email or you send off. But I feel like in a way to capture sort of like the edginess and like the youth of all of this, I feel like if you in your printing materials like really played around with it, I think it would reflect your brand really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something they said too, like Lindsay was saying about the editorial nature of the site and the repeating style of photos. Like there was one on another page that had like 3 different images of the guy sitting on the bridge. You know, just like those repeat images right there. It's like, oh, I'm showing you a triptych of this action happening. Twizzy, how would you describe your work?
I would say that my work it's not, well, I'd say it's raw. I try not to overly process any of the photos. I try to keep it as natural as I could possibly make it. I give it a little bit of tone, but I like to keep things, just the way they look
Mm-hmm.
to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what are like what kind of clients are you looking for these days?
Well, I do a lot of. Well, I'm trying to move directly into the fashion field, just fashion on its own. But for now, there's been a lot of musicians, a lot of artists that want photos of themselves to get themselves out there. Every once in a while, I'll get an event guy who wants some pictures of a party or something like that. But usually these days, it's a lot of artists just trying to get out there themselves.
Yeah. Are you doing marketing of your work to record labels and/or music publications at all?
Well, recently I've kind of been all over the place, so I usually market directly toward the artists themselves, not the label. But that is a good idea. I've never actually thought of that.
Yeah, most bands don't have any money, FYI. Go to the people that do have money.
Trying to get you paid, man. Trying to get you paid.
Yeah. So yeah, there's the within music stuff, on the artist side, there's the management, and then there's the record label, and then there's also the merchandise, and then there's also sometimes like the publishing companies, although generally publishing companies get the photos from management or label. So yes, I would go directly to the record labels. They are the ones that are like creating this work for the artists, and putting together not only their album packaging but the advertising materials, and getting the promo photos that they use in the promotional packages that they send out to publications and websites to show the artist. Like if you go to Pitchfork and you look at a photo of a band up there, that photo of the band is not unique to Pitchfork generally. That photo was supplied by the record label and is on a bunch of other websites. So if you can make yourself be the one that has shot that photo, that would be awesome.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Have you thought about any marketing materials or how to get your work out there into these people's hands?
Well, what's been working usually is literally just Instagram. I've tried Facebook. Facebook isn't really working out for me, but Instagram is doing the trick, man, for the most part. I'm gonna try to move into emailing people more, but yeah, that's what I've been using so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I would totally recommend putting together a list of music publications and music management and record labels, and then outreaching directly to them. It doesn't necessarily have to be fully in this style too. Like you could reach out to Warner Country in Nashville, Tennessee, because I don't know, I'm just thinking of an example like Old Town Road guy, Lil Nas X, like these things pop up, and there's no reason why some country artist might not want a photograph of him with on camera flash at dusk. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes plenty of sense.
Yeah, so think outside that box a little bit too, and show people what you can do and get creative with it. That Lil Nas X, I don't know if you guys ever, I'll make the story short, but he bought that beat for that song, and then he started promoting it himself, and then he just was on Reddit telling people how awesome the song was and if they heard it. And then he told people on Reddit that the song was awesome, and if anyone has a connection with Billy Ray Cyrus, to hit him up because he should be on that song. And then when Billy Ray Cyrus hit him up, he's like, oh yeah, I'm the guy who made that post. And then the song was the #1 song forever, and it's a perfect song. It's a perfect length, and it, now it has the Nine Inch Nails guys doing some of the beats, and it, it starts and ends just perfectly. And I say perfect, I don't own that song or anything, but it perfectly as far as getting in the world's head. So just the way that Lil Nas X built that up from nothing to an insane success in a year's time. is something that, is an anomaly, but it's something we can all look at. Twizzy, have you thought about any like printed materials or way to show your work? Like besides the emailers, have you thought about any like, folding posters or postcards or Kinko's prints that, you could send to people to get people's attention?
Yeah, I've never thought about sending the actual prints to just people in general, but I have thought about making prints because I love the way prints look and they do a lot for your work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also a process and it takes money to do all that. So I've been kind of avoiding it, but I feel like eventually I'm gonna get around to printing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It's as I don't know if everyone here is familiar with the music world, but it's just like the photo of the arts community world. Like there's a community, and like you shoot one musician for an album packaging, and then you're going to shoot more for that record label, and you're going to then other bands are going to see that album packaging and say, oh my god, we want that guy to do our photography. Like it just kind of compounds very fast from that. It's a great thing, and the same for editorial work as well. Like I shot a Schoolboy Q for a magazine once and probably got paid $200, but it was an awesome shoot. And then like the head of his label hit me up and was like, oh, that photo's amazing, I want to buy a print for my office wall. And I said, that's great, well, I'm going to charge you full rate for that, mister. So those things can happen, and it's great to see. But yeah, I mean, I would think about that. Like, do you guys know you can make like prints at Kinko, like 24 by 36 photocopy, like blueprint prints at Kinko for like, I think it's like $1 a square foot. So you could literally like print out, 4 of your photos, Twizzy, and roll them up in a tube and just send it to like the creative department at Atlantic Records and say, what's up? This cost me $10 to do. I'm from Chicago. Here's my work. Check me out. And something like that would stand out. That would be so much bigger than just like a postcard they get in the mail. They would, you could picture them unrolling it and looking at it and, just capturing their attention. So, I mean, it's fun to think about like ways like this that can help promote yourself like outside of the norm.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it's one of my favorite parts of photography, sharing it out, and coming up with creative ways to share my work.
Yeah, that's great. What would be, do you have any like, dream publications that you'd like to shoot for?
I'm not sure yet because I feel like, so David, when I was working for David, he told me that I needed to basically narrow myself down, which is, he was right, but it's also put me in a place where I'm kind of not set on anything and I'm kind of just flowing. I'm not in a, you say I'm sorry, I'm focusing on like 5 different things right now. I'm on my way to the shoot, but what publication I would want to work for, I'm not sure, because orange, green, I'm hanging between fashion and portrait and events, and I'm not sure exactly where I want my work to end up. I just know I want to work and make cool things at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would research that a little bit too. Like, search around the internet and find some of these, publications that would be, awesome for you to reach out to, and hit them up. Twizzy, do you know the photographer Boogie?
You said Boogie?
Yeah.
I think so. I think David did show me Boogie.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think like, he's a much older fella than you, but he's been doing it for a long time, and it kind of has the same vibe. I think you should definitely check out his work. I think it'd be cool. Lindsay, you had a thought about incorporating some handwritten text and personal work into Twizzy's work.
That's sort of like what I was saying with how you can really play with your branding, because while your photos are very exciting, like your logo and like the way this is styled is pretty simple and clean. So I feel like things like handwriting or you know, the colors and the shapes, I feel like we'll be able to balance really well and add like a personal touch and give it sort of like this hand touch, especially if you're gonna take Brian's recommendation, go to Kinko's and print something out. I feel like the combination of those looks very DIY, and I think that's something that's really craved now, especially for this type of photography. Whereas like also what Brian was saying, like you're in it, you're part of this community that you're photographing, and I think that type of marketing is really representative of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, Twizzy. Have an awesome shoot, man, and looking forward to talking with you more.
Thanks, guys.
It was nice meeting you, Twizzy.
Right.
Chicago In-State is next.
Is that the subway?
He's probably on the L.
Okay. Awesome.
All right.
So did you want to, should we just continue on with some photographers, or should we go back to the deck lens?
We, I think it'd be great to, before we go on to anybody else, or I should say while we're going to the next person, I would love if anybody wanted to jump in there with any questions, feel free to drop those in. That would be great. So yeah, if we wanted to move to Akila maybe next.
Sure. And yeah, I know we're throwing a lot of information out there. So if like anything needs to be clarified, as David said, just write your comments. And also like none of this is to be intimidating. It's just like sort of giving you the basics, and you can take it one step at a time. You don't have to like go home and think like, oh, now I have to do all of these things. It one thing at a time. So moving on to Akila. First of all,
are you still with us, Akila?
Guys, I'm here.
Hey, how are you?
well, to get started, Akila, we loved your work. I saw that you actually applied for membership a week ago, and I was so excited when I recognized your name and was just like, oh, like I'm gonna get to talk to this person. That's amazing.
Yeah, I learned about Wonderland from David, and so that's when I just decided to go apply because I didn't even know about it. So.
Yeah, and looking at your website, it's really great. I definitely have a few or like not even suggestions, but like a few things that I noticed as I was looking through it. So I'd love to, you know, go through that, get an idea of like what your overall goals are, see how you're marketing yourself, and just sort of like make any suggestions or comments that I can see.
Awesome, great.
So in general, like how would you describe your photography and your overall goals?
So I would describe my photography, at least I have the goal of making it more documentary than it is not realistic.
Okay.
Like so photo documentation.
Okay.
And I love color. I love vividness. And I try to make sure that my photography is like a reflection of me and where I come from. And for my goals, I would like to do editorial, photojournalism, commercial work,
Okay.
portraits.
Nice. Do you have any dream clients that you would like to reach out to?
I was thinking about that, and the people that came to my head, which was interesting, are musicians, like my favorite people, like a Frank Ocean, a Beyonce, people that I like, Solange, look up to, admire, and would love to be able to sit down and photograph.
Yeah.
That's awesome. One of the things
That's
too with musicians, and you know, maybe not Solange, but smaller musicians that are touring, you know, they're coming through Chicago, hit them up, hit up their team and say, hey, I'm a photographer. I'd love your work. I would love to spend an hour shooting with you. And most people love, you know, if they're a musician, love getting their photos taken and would be glad to do that.
To that point, there were moments where I literally looked at tour schedules and hit people up on social media. This is way back a long time ago. And I remember Alan Stone was one of them. Nobody ever responded, but I went to the show and just told him that I was there from a magazine to photograph him, which was a lie. And he let me, I just took his portrait and just like started art directing him, and he listened to everything. And I still have the photos.
That's
and on my
amazing.
site, which is, it is what it is.
That's
So
great.
I actually was doing some photography for Interscope, and I felt like
Sorry, Akila, is any of that on the website? I can like sort of point to it as you talk about it.
I was just gonna say that no, it's not. I
Okay.
took my music page down because I felt like I needed to kind of refine, simplify what I really want to do, which is more so portraits. And the photography that I've been able to do with Interscope is concert tour photography. So,
Okay.
Like live band photography.
yeah.
Yeah. That yeah, I applaud you for having the smarts to take that down. I mean, that stuff is good and it has its place, but you are not, as a photographer on the side of the stage or in front of the stage, you're not telling them what to do. You're not controlling the lighting. You're not sculpting at all. You're just capturing that moment. So it's much better to see this portrait style work of musicians and people that you controlled everything about.
Absolutely.
Have you done any kind of marketing of your work, Akila?
I have not at all.
All right. The things that Lindsay and I were talking about today, were any of those familiar to you?
I thought about doing emailers. I just really wasn't sure if my work was in a place where I could market myself. So I haven't been doing
It is. Akila, it so is.
Do it.
So I really haven't been doing photography all that long. And then also COVID just put a nail in me being able to go out and shoot and practice more. So I feel very confident in my set of photographs to show people. So I had it in my plans to sign up for, what is it called? The agency access, and having emailers and like reaching out to my favorite editors and favorite magazines and publications. I just was like, let me hold off until I know I have a solid portfolio.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. But with life, I found that if we keep putting things off, it's going to keep getting put off because nothing's ever going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Us as artists, like, we never see things as perfect. It can be awesome and we can feel it's perfect, and then someone else is going to have the unfortunate thought of saying it's not perfect. So yeah, do it.
I think right now is also, sorry to cut you off, Brian.
No, you're good.
Right now is also like a really good, you can look at it as an opportunity with COVID and everything sort of being sort of at like a halt. If you can't shoot, what you can do is sort of fine tune these brand assets and like focus your energy into that aspect of your marketing. Put together promos and put together emailers so that you can send off. Another thing is that because everybody's stuck at home, there's not all that much to do other than stare at your computer and look at new things. And I feel like now would be actually a really great time for that first point of contact. You might not get anything because there's not much that's actually happening right now. But as David mentioned earlier, like, it takes 8 or 9 times, and it's, like just that one time that they think, oh yeah, like I can use this now. But I think marketing yourself now and reaching out is a great time for that first connection to land and for the people to be like, oh, like this is good. So that the next time you reach out, when they actually have a project, they're like, yes. I feel like it's really good timing for all of this.
So, Kaylin, if you're looking at the chat, but Stephen just pointed out that you have a unique gift and a point of view that's distinctly yours.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so get that work out there for sure. Lindsay, did we talk about these colorful backgrounds at all yet?
Not yet. First, I think your command of color and light in your photos is truly beautiful, and I really enjoy, from a design point, these color backdrops that you give to your photos. I really like the colors used in this gallery, with the oranges and the greens. So everything's in like the same tone. So you're using a bunch of colors throughout all of your different portfolios. But because everything is sort of a similar shade, like it's a little bit more muted, it goes so well. And because it's reflecting the colors in the specific galleries, I feel like it just makes it so much more stylized and refined than if it were a regular white backdrop. So I think you're doing a really excellent job with that. And I wanted to ask, you know, what your purpose or like what went into that decision as you were putting it together.
Honestly, just experimentation. I started with white, and I just have been changing around my website over the past year, and I've just connected more with this way. So I'm happy to hear that feedback.
Yeah, I think it's really smart. It makes each frame, like this doesn't look like, it's like they look like standalone images and standalone pairings because of this, versus you scrolling through a gallery of a bunch of different photos. And I think it's really great and smart. I could also, from like a design perspective, reaching out into your other brand assets, I could see that being translated really well into an emailer by including color blocks or background colors into the things that you're sending out. In social media, like your highlight icons, those could be these different colors to sort of show like, you know, the patterns that you have. And I guess you want to be careful with using too many colors sometimes, but like I said, because the overall, like the tone of all of them are really similar and they all work really well together, I feel like you have a consistent voice regardless of, you know, what you're choosing to use as the background.
Thank you.
One thing I wanted to point out too, Kayla, is that you said you just experimented and tried some different things in these background. And it works. It's awesome. It stands out. It's unique. It's different. It was making Lindsay and I stay on the photos and on the pages more and think about those decisions. So applaud you for taking those chances, but do that with the marketing too. You know, get creative with it. We were discussing with David earlier today how a huge part of life is failure and how we learn from those failures. And so, you know, to not be afraid of making mistakes, you know, whether it's in your work, you know, I'm sure when, like this guy on the page right now, when you were shooting him, like you probably had him do a couple things and then said, hey, that's not working. Let's do something else until it worked. It's a work in progress until you nail it. So yeah, don't be afraid of the marketing and getting that work out there. Your work is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very talented. You should show people what you can do.
Thank you.
Because then they'll pay you money.
Right. Great job,
Awesome.
Akila.
I guess my question to you guys would be, do you guys think that I should take away some of the photos that I have? I maybe could just use only like the best of the best photos that I have taken and not just such an array. If you could go to, there's one page that I'm not sure about at all. It's that next one that we haven't gone to yet, the 19.
Okay.
Yeah, that one. Like this is, can you tell me what you think of this page?
I feel like this does go well, especially if you're trying to tie in sort of documentary with fashion and portraiture. I see a little bit of a jump between these photos and just like the overall style, but I feel like it tells a narrative, and it's telling a story about, you know, these girls and how they show themselves. And
That's a
yeah,
beautiful photo.
these are beautiful photos.
Yeah, I
And
would
then
say
even with this hairnet and having it tie back to these photos, I feel like it's all connected still.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure about this page because I felt like it might have been too many different things, because they are all different shoots that I kind of just put all together here because I didn't feel like I had enough to give them their own separate pages.
So is there a common thread that runs through all of these shoots for you on this page, on 19?
I don't think so, besides the fact that they're just women, like stylish sorts of photos.
I just want to point out the reason why I like it, and I see what Stephen just said, that he likes it too. But I think, honestly, one of the things that was really kind of had gravity for your work was it did feel female to me. Like it felt like this is a woman who's photographing women. And that is, I think that's a powerful thing. Cause like, I don't know, I mean, maybe there is, you know, there is guys out there that could get this sort of, but I feel like I was seeing an emotive quality that I don't know that I could have reproduced, if that makes sense. Which is, I don't know. I think that that's cool.
I agree.
So the name of my website is Kills, if that answers your question. It's just Kills, like my Instagram handle, and I'm located in Chicago, to the person who just asked. And thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Akila.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to chatting more about, you know, brainstorming some marketing ideas and creatively getting your work out there for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next we have.
Yeah, go ahead.
Corey.
Corey.
Do we still have Corey?
Y'all should have put me before her. I can't. I got me following that, man.
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew Corey.
You skipped that tab. I could see the tab too, so it's hard to do that though.
So okay, let me just say with Corey, Corey's someone that I've known for a while, and he's someone that is, when we talk about an artist and a creative that can present himself professionally on a number of different levels, he's definitely one of those people. So this is photography, but he also has expression, you know, in motion and in design and in art direction as well.
Nice.
That's awesome. And Corey, you Chicago?
Yes, Chicago.
Awesome. How long have you been taking photos for?
About 6 or 7 years now, maybe 6. Yeah. Bought a camera after I graduated college. So yeah, about 6 years.
Awesome. Very cool. And what do you enjoy photographing, or how would you describe your photography?
I've never formally described it, but I think documentary style is one of the adjectives that's fitting. I think I enjoy capturing moments, candid moments, but trying to find those candid moments that can still almost have a commercial appeal to them. That would probably best describe my style, but I also enjoy art directing, like David said, and I'm venturing a little more, it's not on my site yet, but into actual shoots where I control every aspect of it, or it's not just relying on situation.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Awesome. Have you done any marketing of you and your work?
No, it's a shame because that's my full-time job. Is in marketing, but I haven't implemented really any of what was discussed earlier, other than just making the site.
Yeah. What about the things we discussed earlier? Any of these marketing things? What do you think you'd like to take on?
Email marketing, definitely. Doing my research, figure out what market or client would benefit from my work, but I would also enjoy working with them. And then my action item is building out a list and doing some research there.
That's great. Yeah. And to your point, you just said about the, that would benefit from your work, but that you would enjoy working for them as well.
Right.
That's always a plus when that happens. But any commercial photographer will tell you that there are plenty of clients that they never want to work for again. And then plenty of clients that they just say, hey, no, thanks. Not interested in shooting for you, but when they are your client, they want your full attention right then. They don't want to know about the shoot you did last week or what you're doing next Friday. They want to know that you love their product, you love, their subject matter, and that you're fully in it right there for them.
Right.
So sometimes you got to put on that game face a little bit for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think that this school stuff, like you could do some marketing to like the educational institutions as well. Easily, for promotional materials for universities, private high schools. They're constantly looking for updated assets for their websites and for the marketing materials that they send out.
Sure. Yeah. These pictures are actually from North Central College shooting for David. And they use some of the photos and some of their print materials, some of their
Magazine.
magazine and their admissions or recruitment materials.
That's awesome. Do you think you'll, maybe not now, but do you think you'll do some more work with them?
That I think is going to fall on David's lap if they get the work and they want to call me for it.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Cool.
But I would definitely take it on.
We were looking at your site. Some recommendations on your site too. Then I would recommend you move your people gallery to the front. Start with that. I think that's strong and shows like this is the work that we can see that you have a art direction on. Like you are posing the subject and telling them what to do and working on the lighting instead of just capturing it. And then maybe some of the work in some of the galleries within lifestyle could be shaped up a little bit to be a little more storytelling. And I think if you do that, like if one of these, like at the barbershop, for instance, like you had, if it told a story in there, like of who these people are, who your relationship to them, you could then use that to promote to other clients that you may want to shoot. The barbershop is an example, so you could promote to other barbershops, but you could also promote your storytelling skills to the universities and higher ed world. You could promote it to the bar and grill that's in your town that wants a shoot for their new website. Like that storytelling is key, and especially how you're showing people like working together here with each other, I think is great. But put some of yourself in there too. Make it personal. On these here, I don't see it, but like have some interaction, like have them looking right at you as well as like what you do in the portraiture as well. Like there doesn't have to be such a black and white between the documentary work and the portraiture work. I think sometimes it's awesome to see in like, this like documentary work where like there is some like, wink at the camera, or there is some like, hey, here's my hand in there, like grabbing a pair of these shears, like, put some of yourself in there, I think is cool. Show that you and your camera are part of the scene.
One thing that I'll say about Corey is, I feel like you have a great overlap of like aesthetic and, you know, overall artistic sense and vision, but then at the same time, an awareness of the space that you're in, both like you speak the language culturally of most of the spaces that you're photographing. And I think that that's something that you really, any of you guys that are on here, if you can do that, you have a leg up. And it's something that you should definitely use. And, you know, I think that you probably have stories and projects that you haven't shot that you could go make up yourself that could be powerful tools to show that, yeah, I can come into a space and I understand this space and it gives me access at a different level.
Okay.
Because this is Drew, right?
Yeah.
Barbara? Yeah. Like I tried to hit him up and couldn't shoot there, but you could, you know? So that's
What'd you do wrong, David?
I'm not cool like Corey is. So
Yeah, that's great. That space looks awesome too. Like it looks like you
Yeah.
could do some other awesome shoots there too.
Yeah.
Which would be great.
I really love
you know,
the like the flash of this photo and just how it's cropped, and then this one is also just like such a well structured photo in my eyes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, for the emailers, Corey, that you were talking about, think about how you can make them project-based too, you know, the Storytime project-based, and how you could do that in, you know, 4 to 7 photos or something, and get that out to the right clients. And like we said, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is all like trial and error and doing it over and over again. Like you're going to send out another email in a couple of months with a different project. So, you know, this one doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. But, you know, figure out who the clients are, figure out what the work is you're going to show, and get out there to them, and ask for a meeting, ask for a phone call to discuss their projects.
Yeah.
And, you know, you as an art director, you can help flesh out those projects more. You know, don't do all their job for them, of course, but help them, like, you know, help them put their vision of what the photography should be, you know, help spell that out correctly.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Couple thoughts on your logo and branding in here as well. I would love to see your name a little more distinct and larger up there.
Yeah, Brian noticed, or we noticed that the name of your galleries are bigger than the name of your logo, and we want to make sure that this is like the main thing that people are seeing. You know, Corey Power Photography versus At Home.
Right.
Yeah, there's like a hierarchy of information that you want to be showing your clients.
And it seems like you used 2 different typefaces on your website here too. Maybe throw in a third. Maybe that Corey Powell Photography is, you know, something that's a little more loud. You know, maybe it's a script font or something, or something that just sets it apart from the other text that's on the screen.
Sure.
I like the simplicity of it. Doing something like documentary style, like I feel like a more sophisticated or like simple template and marketing fits that type, because it like gives, you know, you don't want anything too edgy or too whimsical as your marketing, because it doesn't really like match the type of photographs that you're taking. So by keeping everything like clean and simple, I feel like it really goes well with what you're trying to photograph as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then scroll down, Lens. Does his logo stay up there? Yeah. Thinking there's what's the template of your site, Corey?
Squarespace. I don't remember the exact.
I think in Squarespace, like you can, you know, you may have to play around and adjust some things, but if that Corey Powell stayed static as you scroll down, you know, so wherever they were on your page, they just kept seeing your name nonstop. There was no like, whose work am I looking at again?
Yeah.
You know, that wouldn't be a question. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just taking notes.
Oh yeah, of course.
No, That's cool. What are some of your dream clients, Corey? Like, what would you love to shoot?
I don't know if I have a specific brand or any client in mind yet, but ideally, bigger brands that understand my culture, our culture a little bit. Ones that want commercial work, but also want a representation of African Americans, but doesn't necessarily. It's not like some of the attempts happening right now where it's kind of forced, but it's like they actually get it. That type of client. I can't call out anyone specifically right now, but
Sure.
in a dream world, I think that would be that sort of scenario, whether that be in fashion or editorial or commercial.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would sculpt your work and your storytelling in a way that makes those clients need you to tell those stories, that you are the one that can only tell these stories. It's not, oh, Corey's available, he'll shoot it. It's, oh my God, we need Corey to do this. He's the only one that can tell this story.
All right.
So if the barbershop, for example, or at home, like whatever those stories are that are close to you and that important to you, like make that work as personal as possible to be able to, you're the only one that can do that. Like David said, he literally couldn't do it.
It wouldn't let me. I will say to that and to any of the other artists of color, Black or otherwise on here, I think, it was interesting because Akilah and I talked about this when I was talking to her about jumping on here, and it was just this kind of hesitation, like, hey, how long is this moment going to last, where people seem to have more of an appetite for, Black expression specifically, artistically, and she was just saying that she was a little concerned about how long that was going to last, and am I talking to someone who is only going to care for this moment and the next moment they aren't? My response to that is I don't think that you even need to worry about that. I think if you're making great work, put it out there, and especially if you see spaces that are lacking, voices of color in general, present yourself to them. And it doesn't have to be in a, hey, noticed you have nobody other than white people. Like, you don't have to just come at them, but you can present yourself, because guaranteed, if this moment hasn't done anything else, what it has done is made those folks aware if they do have a lack of diversity. So chances are it's, things like that are already talked about. So if you're good at what you do and you can market and brand yourself appropriately, go ahead and present yourself to those clients. Just like Brian is saying, like, hey, I'm actually the one who can go tell this story for you. I'm actually the one who has, whether it is access or fluency in this space in a way that would be valuable overall. So yeah, that's just my thought there.
Yeah, a gigantic part of photography is just having that access.
Yeah.
You hired by a magazine, you have that access to that celebrity. Hired by an ad campaign, you have that access to, make this campaign and put on the billboards. Like it's Akilah was talking about doing the work for Interscope and being, side stage to Diplo or whoever, like that's the access. And you have that internally, though, that, within you, Corey, to tell.
Well, and I will just say to that, I feel like, there's a lot of heat coming at, I mean, I heard, folks like Vogue and other outlets that were kind of getting some heat for not having representation and not having, whether it's Black or other, creatives of color contributing. I agree that needs to change. But then the second thing, I'm realizing that a lot of folks are in this holding pattern of not presenting themselves to organizations and companies like that. Like, you need to put yourself on the map. You go ahead and put yourself out there and say, hey, here's what I can do. And force them to take a look at your stuff. Force them to realize, whoa, this guy Corey, this guy Twizzy, this girl Akila, there's some real talent there, and I could see actually it will fit in this project. But that happens once you've decided to say, hey, here's my work and here's my marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for showing us your work, Corey.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. And hit us up anytime, of course, if you want to just chat about, like, you know, ideas of what could be cool for marketing, or, you know, run things by us. Like, we're always down to chat. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. We wanted to point about this too. Let's get a picture of you on here in this about section.
Okay.
You know, show yourself there.
Come on, Corey.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, I could do that.
I love it.
For all those reasons that you know we just said and that David just said,
Absolutely.
like, you know, you're the storyteller.
Mhm.
Well, I know we're bringing it in for a landing here. I just want to say, really appreciate the time that everybody's taken to just participate in this. I hope that people have been able to get a little bit of something, and really just a takeaway to be able to add value to what you're doing, to what you're creating in the world right now. Is there any other final words that Brian, you or Lindsay? I also saw Bill hopped on here. Bill is the CEO and one of the founders of Wonderful Machine. Thanks for being here with us, Bill.
Sure thing, David. Thank you. And thank you for your cooperation. We love what you're doing with True Chicago, and love being part of everything you're up to.
Yeah, and this is hopefully the first of many more of these too as we move forward. It'd be great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of quick questions come in. Jaleel King was asking, is there a recommendation of resolution and size on images that are on one site?
So I was actually, sorry, you, Brian, if you want to go.
No, you're way better at that than I am.
I was actually just talking to who works at Wonderful Machine, the guy, like one of our SEO guys. And he was saying how resolution wise, it doesn't actually make that much of a difference between 72 to 300 pixels per inch. And he would recommend, if you have a smaller image on there, keeping it with 1,000 pixels wide. But if it's a larger image and you want it to be good quality, keeping it around 2,000 pixels wide.
What we've kind of can assume is that every creative director and producer and art buyer is very lazy and is going to be downloading photos from your website too. So if they are downloadable, like right click, download, or control click, save a desktop, like make sure your name is on those photos. Make sure they're copyrighted in the metadata. Make sure, you know, it says right on there, like Corey Powell, Chicago, Illinois, Barbershop 001. So that, you know, 6 months, 2 years from now, when that creative director opens up his inspirational folder and is looking for photos, he knows right away who shot that one and can reach out.
Yep. Great. I think maybe can you drop in the chat what you just said, Lindsay, the specific,
Oh, yeah.
because I have a couple people asking me just for you to repeat it. So while she's throwing in there, I'll just say, make sure you guys check out Wonderful Machine and follow them on Instagram and just stay up on what they're doing. I also want to say, make sure you follow True Chicago. That's just at truechicago.co. And we would just love to have you guys engage in any of our future programming. We'll have a bunch of stuff happening in August that we want you to jump on. And I believe our next workshop will be August 11th, and we'll have more information about that. And then our yearly conference that we're going to have is going to be at the beginning of October. The plan is to split it into 2 different weekends that we'll do the first weekend and the second weekend of October. So we'll be in more communication about that. Yeah, I appreciate it. Let's just give some more claps to everybody for joining. This was great. If you didn't take a page of notes, I did. So there you go. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate the feature artists that jumped on here with us as well. It's not easy to just put your work out there. Sometimes that can be very vulnerable. So I appreciate you guys doing that with us. Thank you to everybody. Again, this is True Chicago, a Wonderful Machine workshop, and we will have more to come. So make sure you follow at truechicago.co.